Day 13. The cloud that became an umbrella. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was growing up rapidly. Muhammad had some nursing brothers. In those days, infants who drank milk from the same woman but did not have the same mother were called nursing brothers. Whenever nursing brothers went outside to feed the animals, Muhammad was often left alone. In fact, he also wanted to go to the countryside, wander around, see the flowers, feed the lambs, and spend time with them. One day, he told his nursing mother about this. His nursing mother did not want him to go. She didn't want him to be under the sun all day. But when she saw how sad Muhammad was, she couldn't be against it any longer. She gave permission for him to go out with his brother and sister the next day. Muhammad was very happy. One day he was going out with his nursing brother and sister, Abdullah and Shyma. While Halimah was getting him ready, she repeated the same thing to her children. Take care of him well, protect him, and don't let sunlight hit his head. Shyma promised her mom that she would take care of him. While walking hand in hand, they followed the lambs. While Muhammad was walking around, he thought about the sky, the sun, and the earth, and how the Creator had made them so beautifully. Who would make them this beautiful? The Creator had made them this beautiful. The more Muhammad thought, the more he loved him. Just as the warm sunlight caressed his skin, a white cloud as thin as a thread appeared above him and shaded him. Wherever he went, the cloud followed him. It was like an umbrella. As he walked along the road, the cloud never left him. Muhammad did not know what was going on. His nursing sister Shyma noticed this cloud. She was amazed at how this cloud followed her brother. When they returned home in the evening, Shyma described the events to her mother. Halimah was not surprised to hear any of it. In fact, she was happy because she too had seen the cloud over Muhammad when he was just a baby. She knew that he was a special child, and she knew that he would later become a great man. For this, she thanked Allah. It's day 14. Two men in white. It was a sunny day. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to the countryside again with his brothers to let the lambs graze. The lambs wandered around joyfully. Muhammad sat near one corner of the herd, thinking deeply, while his nursing brother Abdullah was in a deep sleep under the shade of a tree. Suddenly, two strange men in white appeared before Muhammad. They carefully watched him from a distance. You could tell that they were good people, even from far away. They greeted him with a great big smile. One of them was holding a gold plate in his hands. There was snow filled to the brim of this plate. Muhammad looked at the man in amazement. Quietly, the men came near to him. Carefully, without harming him, they laid him on the ground and washed his chest with the snow. When they finished, they just disappeared. Muhammad was neither scared nor in panic. During this time, Abdullah woke from his sleep and saw everything that happened. He ran home and told his mother, Mommy, two men laid my Meccan brother on the ground. They were doing something to him." His nursing mother got very worried. She ran over to Muhammad. There didn't seem to be anyone around. Her dear boy's face was just pale. Halimah asked, "My child, what happened to you?" Muhammad told her the story. He was around 4 years old and one of the most handsome children. Halima was worried more than before after this event because she knew that he was a very special boy. She discussed it with her husband and they decided to give him back to his mother before something scary happened to him. When they arrived at Mecca, Halima explained everything to Amina, but she was not surprised. Amina said, "Yes, my son is special. He will be a great man." She then gave Halima lots of gifts. Abdul Muttalib was very happy. His grandson had grown up healthy and he was 4 years old. Mecca and Muhammad were reunited again. Halima hugged and kissed him for the last time. She was happy that she had returned him safe and sound. This incredible child was now going to live in Mecca with his mother, Amina. Day 15. Living with his mother. He was a sweet, healthy child. Living in the desert had been very good for him. He grew up there without getting sick. Now he was in his mother's warm arms. With his return, the house was filled with light. Everyone, his mother, grandfather, aunt and uncles, loved him very much. His youngest uncle, Abbas, was his playmate. Since they were close in age, they got along very well. Muhammad ﷺ helped his mother around the house because he didn't want his mom to get upset or tired with housework. He was such a good child. His mother was so amazed at how much he cared about cleanliness. He was polite and attentive. He was truthful, he hated lies, and he was very well mannered. The children of Mecca liked him very much, just as the children of Badia did. They would compete with each other just to play with him. Muhammad never singled out any of his friends. It didn't make any difference whether someone was poor or rich, ugly or handsome. He made friends with everyone. Day 16. Missing his father. In a very short time, his name became known all around by word of mouth. Those who saw him were left in amazement. They told everyone about his manners and respect for others. Muhammad ﷺ was now 6 years old. He was living happily in his home in Mecca. He and his mother finally had the pleasure of being together. One day, Amina decided to take her son Muhammad to see their relatives in Medina. She wanted to take Muhammad to visit them and to visit the site of his father's grave. His nanny, Ayman, was also going to go with them. A short time later, the three of them set out on the trip. It was going to be a very long journey. Muhammad was very excited and anxious. He was going to meet his uncles and visit the site of his father's grave. Day and night, they traveled on the back of the camel. They arrived at Medina after days of traveling. Medina was a beautiful city when you could get many fruits and vegetables. They arrived at Muhammad's uncle's house. His uncles hugged and kissed the nephew they were seeing for the very first time. Amina took Muhammad along with her to the site of his father's grave. Muhammad's father, Abdullah, had been a very kind man. He passed away without being able to see his little boy. Amina was so sad about this. To see his father's grave made Muhammad very sad. Who knows how much he would have loved his father if he had been alive. He would have shown him so much respect and obeyed him. They finally left the grave. Even though he was missing his father, he knew he had to be patient and just accept this. Day 17. Unforgettable Days. The children in Medina loved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was the first time they had seen a child like him. They too were very good children, but Muhammad was different. He was polite, smart, and kind to everyone. All of his friends gathered around him and took him to tour Medina. Muhammad really liked this beautiful city. He got along very well with his cousin, Unaisa. They would play in the garden every day. His uncle's house was like a mansion. The birds made a nest on the roof of this house. Muhammad and Unaisa would try to make the birds fly away from the house. Muhammad enjoyed this very much. There was a huge pool in the backyard of the house. In just a few days, he learned how to swim. His friends came over to swim with him. They played so many fun games. They rode horses, they shot arrows, they raced each other. This beautiful city became even more beautiful and fun with all of these games. The citizens of Medina hosted Muhammad and his family with pleasure. These were the best and most fun days of Muhammad's childhood. He would always remember these days because they were unforgettably good childhood memories. It's day 18. Good news. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very happy in Medina. He liked the city very much. It seemed as if the days were swiftly passing by at his uncle's house. One day, he was sitting with his nanny, Ayman, in the backyard of their house. Two Jews passing by the house saw Muhammad. They started to observe him carefully. It seemed that they had found someone they were looking for. Muhammad became uncomfortable with their stares. He quickly went inside. When they saw him go inside, they asked his nanny, Ayman, "What is this child's name?" The nanny did not know them. She was confused. Worried that they might do some harm to him, she asked, "Why do you want to know?" "Don't be afraid," they replied. "He looks like a child we are looking for. That is the reason why we ask. Could you please tell us his name? We do not mean any harm." The nanny felt sure that they did not have bad intentions. "His name is Muhammad," she said. Both of their eyes glowed with joy. They smiled as they looked at each other. Probably this was the child they were looking for. They requested the nanny, "Could you please call him here?" The nanny, Ayman, called him over. They observed him closely. They requested permission to take a look at his back. On Muhammad's back was a birthmark. Anxiously, they remarked, "Yes, it is he." The nanny was more confused than before. One of the Jews said, "This boy will become the last prophet. He fits the exact description of the last prophet from our books." The other added an explanation. The mark on his back is the mark of prophethood. Thanking Ayman, they departed, and so the first signs were discovered in Medina. Was the expected guide to be Muhammad? Everyone was curious about this. To see him was a great blessing. How happy were those who had his love, and how great an honor it was to be able to see him. Day 19. The mother who passed on. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made great friendships in Medina. He lived many joyful days, but it was time to return to Mecca. His grandfather and other relatives were waiting for him in Mecca. He said his goodbyes and departed with his mother and nanny, Ayman. They traveled day and night into the dry desert. His mother Amina was weak and tired and couldn't focus. After a few days of travel, she suddenly became ill. They were to take a break at the village of Abwa. During the break, she collapsed. and Muhammad ran to hug her. Amina was burning with a high fever. He ran back and forth in order to find help. Amina's strength and breath was weakening. Muhammad laid his mother in his lap. He understood that she was seriously ill. He was weeping silently. Amina opened her eyes for a moment and softly said, "Water?" He gave his mother some water as she gave him a long stare and held his gentle hands. These were her last words. She hugged her son for the last time and passed on to the next life. The people of Abwa came running to them and helped to dig a grave for her. Allah loves those who love Him. Even in the most difficult times, He would help them. Since Muhammad loved Allah very much, Allah always helped him. In his most difficult times, Allah gave him strength. Day 20. Muhammad and his grandfather. With tearful eyes, Muhammad ﷺ and his nanny set out again, leaving Amina in the cemetery of Abwa. After a long and tiring journey, they reached Mecca. The news of Amina's death echoed in Mecca. Everyone felt sad. Muhammad was left without a mother or a father. His old grandfather held him tight. He was going to take care of this orphan from now on. This good-hearted grandfather was generous and liked to do favors for everyone. He would distribute food to the poor and would feed all of the hungry. He would even think of the hungry animals living in the wild and would take them food. He was like Muhammad's mother, father, and everything to him all in one. The caring grandfather would take him everywhere he went. They would never remain separate from each other. Muhammad was only 6 years old, but he was a very mature child. He tried hard not to be a burden on his relatives and tried his best not to upset them. His aunts and uncles who noticed this tried to give him more attention. His youngest aunt, Safiya, and his youngest uncle, Hamza, became friends with young Muhammad. For his patience and good manners, Allah gave Muhammad the strong love of his family as a gift. Day 21. His grandfather's prayers. Abdul Muttalib had a cushion he always kept in front of the base of the Kaaba. No one could sit on it other than himself, but he would take great pleasure if Muhammad ﷺ sat there. To those who wanted to bring him down from there, he would say, "Leave my son alone. He is going to be a great man someday." No one other than Muhammad could enter Abdul Muttalib's room either. This kind-hearted grandfather would eat his meals with him. He wouldn't let anyone start their meal before Muhammad joined them. Because Muhammad had so much love from his grandfather, he was very happy. Abdul Muttalib was a very hard-working man. He would not waste even a moment. Anyone who was in trouble would run to him. He would help everyone and would not turn away from anyone. One day, Abdul Muttalib lost his camel. They looked everywhere for it, but simply could not find it. Muhammad didn't want to see his grandfather sad, so he also went out to help look for the camel. A long time passed by. Muhammad wasn't anywhere to be found. Young Muhammad seemed to be lost. His grandfather became worried. He was so upset that he couldn't decide what to do. He forgot about his camel and started looking for his grandson. Helpless and upset, he ran towards the Kaaba. He opened out his hands to Allah and prayed, "My Lord, please return my grandson to me." His tears poured down into his beard. He looked long and hard into the distance. At that moment, he noticed someone approaching from afar. Yes, yes, it was him. It was his beloved, sweet grandson who was coming, and with him was the lost camel. Muhammad had found the camel and was bringing him back. His grandfather ran towards him and gave him a great big hug. "My dear son, I was so worried about you," Abdul Muttalib exclaimed while tightly hugging him. "From now on, I'm not going to let you leave my sight. I'm not going to send you anywhere alone." From that day on, Abdul Muttalib never left Muhammad alone. Muhammad was growing up safely protected under his grandfather's care. Everyone loved him. He was treated differently from others and was given special attention, but he never acted spoiled. It's day 22, the child praised by kings. Abdul Muttalib had to leave Mecca for a little while. As the leader of Mecca, he went to congratulate a king who had just been crowned. He could not take Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with him. The journey was long and tiring. Besides, it was an official meeting. It would not have been nice to bring a child along. When he set out on his journey, he was joined by the nobles of Mecca, but his thoughts were continuously about his grandson. After a long trip, they finally arrived. The king showed great respect to Abdul Muttalib. For several days, he showed great hospitality and welcomed his guests in his palace. One day during their stay, the king called Abdul Muttalib to his side. He said, "I'm going to share a secret. It's about you." Abdul Muttalib was surprised. "I'm listening, Your Majesty," he responded. "What is this secret?" he asked. The king was a good-hearted man who was knowledgeable and had read many books. He said, "According to the books I read, there is a boy growing up in Mecca. He has a birthmark of prophethood on his back. He has no mother and no father. He is living with his grandfather. According to these books, he will be the last prophet. There will be no prophet after him. That is why he is of such value. He was chosen and praised both in the heavens and on earth. He will keep mankind from committing bad deeds, and he will guide them to the true path. He will always do good things and will spread love and goodness around the world." As the king explained, Abdul Muttalib became excited. The description sounded exactly like his grandson. This could not be anyone but his grandson Muhammad. The king was aware of everything. He looked carefully into Abdul Muttalib's face and said, "According to my books, this grandfather must be you. These signs point to you." Abdul Muttalib had already sensed that his grandson would be a great man one day. Hearing the same thing from a king had excited him more. "Your Majesty, what you are saying is certainly true. I have a grandson who is a treasure. According to your description, it must be my grandson Muhammad." The king was glad to hear that he had not been mistaken. He advised Abdul Muttalib, "Be sure to take good care of him. People with bad intentions may bring harm to him, but Allah will help him. When that child grows up, he will accomplish great things." Both the king and Abdul Muttalib were convinced that this child was Muhammad. The king gave many gifts to Abdul Muttalib and sent him on his way. Abdul Muttalib missed his grandson dearly. He was impatient to see him as soon as possible. After a long and tiring journey, he finally reached home. He hugged and kissed his grandson. From now on, he was going to take better care of him than ever before. It's day 23. A giant no more. Abdul Muttalib grandfather to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was liked by many in Mecca. Most of this great leader's life had been spent doing good to others and favors for the people. He would do everything within his power to make the Meccan people comfortable in life. For Muhammad, during times of loneliness, his grandfather was like a giant mountain that he leaned on. But lately, he was unable to get out of his bed. He was ill. He was now very old. It was now his time to leave this world. He knew this too. He had one concern. He was afraid that after he died, his little Muhammad would be alone. It was bad enough that he was without a mother and father. What would he do if he were to lose his grandfather too? This old grandfather called his children and grandchildren to his side. Muhammad hadn't seen his grandfather this sick before. He was speaking with great difficulty, just as Muhammad's mother had done before dying. The thought of losing his grandfather started to sink in. He started to cry. If something happened to his grandfather, how would he deal with this? While he was thinking about this, his grandfather called for him. "My son, my dear Muhammad." His voice sounded weak. "It's time now for me to go. When I'm gone, your uncles will look after you. Tell me, which one of your uncles would you like to live with?" Muhammad had many uncles. Every one of them gave Muhammad their love, but he loved Abu Talib the most. He hugged Abu Talib, and Abu Talib hugged him back. His grandfather was extremely happy about this because he knew that of all his sons, Abu Talib was the one to take the best care of Muhammad. From his deathbed, he cried out to his son, "Abu Talib, my son, I'm leaving Muhammad in your care. Do you promise to take good care of him?" Abu Talib replied, "Don't worry, my dear father. I'm going to take Muhammad into my home and watch over him as if he was my own. I'm going to protect him from all harm and evil. I promise you this." This old grandfather was comforted by his words. With peace of mind, he looked long and hard at his grandson for the last time. With that peace, he departed from this world. The child Muhammad, the dear boy who would someday be the prophet, was still only 8 years old. In a short time, the bad news spread quickly. Everyone in the city was in tears. Some even came from faraway places just to fulfill their last duty to Abdul Muttalib by attending his funeral. The city of Mecca was struck with grief. All of the shops were closed down for several days. The great chief had died. Sometimes Muhammad was sobbing. Sometimes he hid himself in a corner and cried silently. After the funeral service, his uncle hugged Muhammad and wiped his tears. From now on, he was going to act as a father to this unique child. It's day 24 in his uncle's home. Abu Talib had a small house in which he lived with his large family. But his heart was so large that it was big enough for everyone. He opened both his heart and his home to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now he was one of the children of this home. His aunt Fatima used to treat him very well. Muhammad was also very respectful towards her. She used to love this polite and respectful child like her own. She used to comb Muhammad's hair before her own children. She used to feed him first. Her own children were never jealous of him though, because they too loved Muhammad. He was happy in that home. Allah the Most High had given him an uncle like a father and an aunt like a mother. Wherever he went, his uncle used to take him along. Abu Talib couldn't do without Muhammad. He wouldn't sit at the table without him. When he was ready to eat, he used to say, "Where is Muhammad? Go and call him." When Muhammad sat at the table, everybody would leave with a full stomach. When he was not there, nobody was completely full. Muhammad never sit at the table before washing his hand. He would say Bismillah first and then start eating. He wouldn't blow on the food, but he would wait patiently for it to get a little cooler. He used to eat food in small bites and always whatever was in front of him. He wouldn't start eating before the elders did. He had excellent manners. His uncle and his aunt wanted him to be well fed and comfortable. They did everything possible to give him whatever he needed. Muhammad was very comfortable in that home. He used to love his uncle, aunt, and cousins as if they were his own family. Love rained from the sky. Blessings showered down upon the world. A lot of these blessings poured into the humble home of Abu Talib. All of them became full and well fed. The faces of the children brightened, and utter joy spread around the home after Muhammad joined them.